Om Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Beda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyaptadehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Harihi Om Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraikapanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Geetamritaduhe Namaha. Om. So, we have been trying to have a top-down approach and understanding of the Gita, and we saw some selected shlokas, 12 shlokas we saw, which cover all the concepts of the Gita, and then we also took up uh, chapter 15 and chapter 12, which give the theory and the practice of the Gita uh, in a very comprehensive way. And we also saw some selected shlokas from Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Dhyana Yoga. So now the next step in the top-down approach of the Gita would be to understand the entire flow of the Gita. So that is what we'll attempt. So this is mainly based on Swami Paramarthananji's uh, exposition of the Gita, and so from his books, the students of study circle, Vivekananda study circle, ASC, they had collected uh, a summary of the Gita, which the PDF file I will send it, and so where Swamiji has given which for every chapter he has said, like, from which verse to which verse what topic is covered, and then he also gives a one line running translation of every verse, so that way he has covered the entire Gita which is very, very beautifully done, and that is a very comprehensive book on the Gita. Now, condensing the Gita, the great work by Yamunacharya, Alandar Swami, who is a Ramanuja's guru's guru. He has written what is called as Gitartha Sangraha, where in 32 verses he has condensed the entire Gita, and that's also very beautifully structured. The first verse condenses the entire Gita, then 3 verses condensing every shatka, every set of 6 chapters, and then 18 shlokas, each shloka condensing one chapter of the Gita. So this way 22 shlokas cover the entire Gita summary, and then another 10 shlokas covering some important topics, giving more additional clarification on some important topics. So this way 32 shlokas, Gitartha Sangraha is there by Yamunacharya, and Sri Ramanujacharya, his Gita Bhashya is expanded or expansion of Yamunacharya's Gitartha Sangraha. He follows the same, and also Vedanta Desika, he wrote Gitartha Sangraha Raksha, so which he has taken Yamunacharya's 32 shlokas and he has elaborated on each of them, like something like a commentary, a short commentary kind of thing. And also Vedanta Desika also has translated the Gitartha Sangraha into Tamil verse also in Venba meter, like that is also available. So like these are available as like chapter wise condensation or summarization of the Gita, and uh, uh, our own Swami Tapasyananji, he has done also a very good work of summarizing chapter wise, summarizing the Gita in as a part of his book Gita, the Scripture of Mankind. And In Pravachana form, Dr. Venkatesh from Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, he has done a very good work of a chapter-wise Gita summary covering all the 18 chapters in a lecture of 1.5 hours. So that also is available on YouTube. You can have a look. And so most of them are on based on the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. So I couldn't find anything similar from the Advaita Parampara. So Paramarthananji is the one which comes closest to what we can look at as flow of Gita chapter wise, covering the important topics in the same sequence as the Gita, right? So this is something which I wanted to do for a long time, and when Swami Atma Shraddhanji, Pankaj Maharaj wanted to do a similar thing based on Ranganathananji's commentary, and hopefully sometime in the future I or someone else can do that. But so let us see, and hopefully this will help us to understand Gita from a bird's eye point of view. And so the Dhyana Shloka I want to start with is this is from the Gita Dhyana Shlokas, which Swami Madhusudana Saraswati from his Gita Bhashya, Udartha Deepika, when he wrote, he composed 9 Dhyana Shlokas, and in one of the Dhyana Shlokas, he has again condensed the entire Gita message. Right? So, Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraikapanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gitamrita Duhe Namaha. So, Prapanna Parijataya he's the wish fulfilling tree for the devotees. So, basically, like all our desires get translated into action, and the Lord is the Karma Phala Data, the one who gives the fruits of our action. So, the Lord is the Kalpataru or the Parijata, and the devotees are one who have acknowledged that it is the Lord who is the Karma Phaladata. So he is the Prapanna Parijata, and this is a summary of Karma Yoga. Totra Vetraika Panaye, one who holds the stick to control the cows in his hand. So the cows are our senses and the mind, and controlling them is a vital sadhana as a part of the spiritual life. And the way Gita's way of controlling the mind is to meditate upon the Lord. So meditate upon the Lord, chanting his name, thinking about his glories. That is in a way handing over the stick to control the mind into the hands of the Lord. Right. So that is what it signifies. And that signifies Dhyana Yoga. Jnana Mudraya indicates Jnana Yoga. So the basically, we can see Krishna showing here the index finger folded, separated from the rest of the 3 fingers and touching the thumb. So the index finger indicates identity, and normally we identify with the Sharira Traya, the Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karna Sharira. The Stula Sharira is the physical body, Sukshma Sharira is the mind, Karna Sharira is the subconscious, and normally we identify with that, and like we are not those 3 bodies, and we are pure consciousness. The thumb indicates pure consciousness. So Jnana Mudra indicates the knowledge, right? That I am not this body and I am pure consciousness. So this gesture is called Jnana Mudra, and that summarizes Jnana Yoga. And the whole thing is being taught to us by Krishna, and Krishna both as the teacher and Krishna as the goal, and he is also the way, right? So everything is Krishna, and he also tells us how to do Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga along with Bhakti. So Bhakti is covered there. And Gita Amrita Duhe Namaha tells us what is the phala, what do we get by the Gita. Mrita means death, Amrita means immortality, and Gita gives us immortality by giving us the knowledge of our inherent immortality. So, by knowledge, Gita gives us immortality, and Krishna is the one who gives the knowledge. So, Gita Amrita Duhe and Namaha salutations to Lord Krishna. So, in as a prayer to Krishna, Madhusudana Saraswati has condensed the entire message of the Gita and right all the four yogas and also the phala of the Gita. So, this is the basic template of the Gita, and as we will see. So, Gita is organized, as we all know, it has 18 chapters and it is organized as three shatkas. Shatka is a set of 6 chapters. Prathama Shatkam, chapters 1 to 6, Madhyama Shatkam, chapters 7 to 12, and Charama Shatkam, or Antima Shatkam, the last Shatkam, chapters 12 to 18. And Prathama Shatkam is essentially Jiva Tattva. It covers Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and it focuses on Purusha Prayatana. So there is almost no mention of Ishvara in the first 6 chapters. Only in the fourth chapter, there's a small digression because to answer Arjuna's question, but otherwise, almost in the entire 6 chapters, Ishvara Tattva doesn't come at all. It's fully about Jiva Tattva and Purusha Prayatana as an individual, how we can reach the goal. And the entire spiritual sadhana path is given without involving Ishvara. That is the Prathama Shatkam. Madhyama Shatkam, Ishvara is introduced, and so how to do the same Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Jnana Yoga, whichever is given in the Prathama Shatkam, along with Bhakti Yoga, and how with Bhakti Yoga the whole spiritual path becomes much easier, and it is Krishna gives the grace of Ishvara, is and by using the grace of Ishvara, the whole spiritual path becomes very easy. And so the same spiritual path which is established in the Prathama Shatkam is combined with Bhakti Yoga and presented as along with that as an easier approach, and that is what is the Madhyama Shatkam, the 6 middle chapters. And then in Charama Shatkam, a lot of miscellaneous topics are covered. Jiva Ishvara Aikyam was touched upon throughout the Gita, but it is kind of again touched upon in detail. And Jnana Yoga, Sadachara, right? So, and then a summary in the 18th chapter. So, basically, like a lot of miscellaneous topics are covered in the last Shatkam. So, this is how the Gita is organized, and this is accepted both by the Advaita Parampara and also the Vishishta Advaita Parampara. Both have the same kind of classification, though there is slight difference in some minor differences, otherwise it's the same. Now, going to before we get into Gita, we need to understand what is Jiva Tattva. Jiva Tattva is the core of the entire Vedanta and particularly the Prathama Shatkam, right, of the Gita. So what we need to understand is the who is an individual and how is the individual organized. So two important words, Jivatma and Atma, right? Now, because lot of places in the Gita, it will be just mentioned as Atma. And we have to interpret whether what is meant by Atma there. Is it Jivatma or Atma? Atma is pure consciousness, right? Without, it's a one partless. When we say pure, it means there is absolutely no properties, right? No papa, no punya, no action, nothing, right? So that is just pure knowledge, pure awareness. So there is Chaitanya, that is Atma, and because there is absolutely no properties, no variations, that Atma is equal to Brahman, which is the infinite, right? which is called as original consciousness. Now, this is Atma, and what is called as Jivatma is the causal body, the Karna Sharira. So, every individual constitutes of three shariras, as we saw: Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, and Karna Sharira, right? And Sthula Sharira is the gross body, the Deha, right? The physical body. Sukshma Sharira is a subtle body which constitutes prana, right? Which is the life principle. Indriyas, both karmendriyas and jnanendriyas, right? The senses and the organs of action. Manas, the mind, which is the emotional faculty, which evaluates as likes and dislikes. And buddhi, the discriminative faculty, the intellect, which looks at the world as right and wrong. Now, all these things constitute the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body. Karna Sharira is the causal body, and this is the storehouse of Punya, Samskara, and Jnana, right? So, whatever karma we do, we get Papa or Punya, and that is stored here, or that is that is attached to this Karna Sharira. Similarly, our subconscious tendencies, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, and also the good tendencies, honesty, kindness, patience, right? So all the good and bad samskaras, they are all here. And jnana is our worldview, whatever we are convinced about, right, as the truth, like, right, who is Jiva, who is Jagat, what is Jagat, who is Ishvara, like our understanding, what is the purpose of life, that is jnana, and that is stored here. So this is basically a storage, you can say. And between this, the Jivatma, right, where Jivatma is the individual with all the variations. Each Jivatma is unique and has its own punya, samskara, jnana, right? And when the body dies, right, the Jivatma takes the Sukshma Sharira and goes from one body to the other body. Okay. And when the world is destroyed, when during a Kalpa and Pralaya, during the Pralaya, the Sukshma Sharira is also destroyed and a new Sukshma Sharira is given in the next Kalpa. But the Jivatma is eternal, right? So this is Sanatana. That doesn't get destroyed even when the entire world is destroyed, or even when one Brahmaji goes and another Brahmaji comes, even then the Jivatma is the continuous. So Papa Punya does not get destroyed. And so this is the individual, and the Atman is one partless pure Atman, and that gets reflected in the Jivatma, and that is called as the reflected consciousness, Chidabhasha. Now the Chidabhasa is almost like Atman. It is identical. Every Jiva, like there is no difference between one Jiva's Chidabhasa and the another Jiva's Chidabhasa. The differences are only in the Jivatma level, and it is pure awareness, pure consciousness. But because it is a reflection, it is many. Otherwise, there is no difference, right? So it is just a reflection of Atman on the Jivatma is called Chidabhasa. Now, multiple terminologies are used. The word Atman is used for Deha, it is used for the Karna Sukshma Sharira also, it is used for Karna Sharira also. But we have to, depending upon the context, we need to figure out which Atma, which of these it talks about by that word Atma. Okay. So this clarity we should have. And in the 15th chapter, like there are terminologies: Kshara Purusha, Akshara Purusha, Jiva, Purushottama, Paramatma. These terminologies come, and this is how the mapping is. Like the Sthula Sharira and Sukshma Sharira is called Kshara Purusha. They are part of Prakriti. And the Karna Sharira is called Akshara Purusha. That is called Jiva. And the Chaitanya the Atman, that is called as Purushottama Paramatma. So that is the 15th chapter terminology. And Sankhya terminology, this is Chidabhasa is called Purusha, because Sankhya doesn't accept the Atman, Brahman, original consciousness. So whenever Sankhya talks about Atman or Brahman, it will be this level, but that is called Purusha. And these three are clubbed under Prakriti in Sankhya. So this way, like, this is as per Advaita Parampara and Vishishtadvaita, there will be slight difference, some small differences, but not much. At the Jivatma level, there is not much difference here. Okay. So mainly you will have to be very clear about this structure, right? The Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karna Sharira, and the Chaitanya, pure consciousness, right? And when we say Jivatma, it is this. This much, if clarity, which we need clearly before we go into the Gita, right? Now, the how, what is the way in the Pratama Shatkam? Pratama Shatkam, like, what is the spiritual path? Now, first, there is one Jnana Yoga, where what we are doing now, right? Where we understand what is Jiva Tattva, what is the Sadhana Krama, right? And so, with this understanding, we can do Nishkama Karma. So, Karma Yoga is Nishkama Karma, right? Doing our duties without expecting the results, right? Without an eye on the results. When we say results, like, we are not focused on the immediate result, right? But then, of course, the work has to get succeeded, but we don't look for a personal gain. That is what is Nishkama Karma. We don't ask what is in it for me, right? The work has to be completed successfully. So we are worried about the work, right? We are worried about the results of the work, but we are not worried about the fruits of the action. So when you say Nishkama Karma, often it is translated as do your duty, but don't worry about the results. Instead of results, actually a better translation will be fruits, right? What is my personal gain by doing this work? That we should not have eye on. That is Nishkama Karma. And Nishkama Karma will result in Chitta Shuddhi, purification of the mind. So when we say purification of the mind, what it means is that our strong likes and dislikes become weak preferences, right? So we become free from strong likes and dislikes, right? Raga Dvesha. Freedom from Raga Dvesha is called Chitta Shuddhi, right? And we get Samabuddhi, right? Equanimity in all situations, right? Sitoshna, Sukha Dukkeshu, Labha, Labhav, Jaya, Jaya, in everything we have Samabuddhi. And Titiksha, forbearance, right? We can forbear all these different ups and downs of life. So this is what we get out of Karma Yoga. And Karma Yoga is a prerequisite. At least to some extent, we should have these three before we get into Dhyana Yoga. Otherwise, we will not be able to sit and meditate peacefully. The process in Dhyana Yoga is meditation, Dhyana. And what do we get by Dhyana? Dhyana Yoga, we get Mano Nigraha, control over our mind, Indriya Nigraha, control over our senses, and Chitta Ekagrata, concentration of the mind, right? So this we get by Dhyana Yoga. And Dhyana Yoga is a prerequisite to be able to effectively get the benefits of Jnana Yoga. Of course, we can do Dhyana Yoga without Karma Yoga, but our meditation will not be good. We can also do Jnana Yoga without much of Karma and Dhyana, but then, like, it will not yield fruit. So if you have at least to some extent progressed in Karma Yoga and Dhyana Yoga, then Jnana Yoga will easily yield fruits. And when we say Jnana Yoga 2, this is Jnana Yoga focused on Atma. Here, Jnana Yoga 1 is knowing what is Jiva. Jiva Tattva Jnana is what is focused here. whereas Atma Tattva Jnana is what is focused here. This is Atma Jnana, right? This is the Jnana Yoga, and the means is Shravana, listening to the scriptures from a guru, and Manana, thinking about it and having all the doubts clarified, and Nididhyasana, meditating upon it and owning it up. So Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana is the process, and Atma Jnana and Brahma Atma Aikya Jnana is what is the goal here. This is what we get. And by Atma Jnana, we get Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti. Jivan Mukti is while living, we are free from the Shat Ripu, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. Freedom from that is what is Jivan Mukti. Videha Mukti is all our Papa Punya are completely erased, and when the body falls, it is freedom. So that is called Videha Mukti. So this is the template, right? And this is based on the Pratama Shatkam, based on the Advaita Parampara. Now, in the Vishishtadvaita Parampara, this Jnana Yoga 2 is not there. So, and this Atma Jnana is not there. So, they kind of end with this. And after Dhyana Yoga, you basically get freedom, right? So, directly like this, they don't have the Atma Jnana because they don't have the idea of Shuddha Chaitanya concept is not there. Jiva Ishvara Aikyam, Brahma Atma Aikyam concept is not there. So this Jnana Yoga 2 is not there. So, but Jnana Yoga 1 is common. That is for both the paramparas. Right. So with this, we can enter into the Gita. Before that, any questions? Let me, if anyone has any questions, we can take.
Yes, Gokulji, you talked about Chidabhasa, right?
Mm.
You saw also it is many, right?
Mm.
Which means it is only at the mind level. It's not at the Karana Shariram level, the Chidabhasa.
No, it is a reflection on the Karna Sharira.
But it's still many. You said many, that's why I asked the
It is
question.
many, yes, like it is many. So as many Karna Shariras, that
Okay.
many reflected
Right.
consciousness.
Okay. Okay. Okay, understood.
Yeah.
And you also said in Karna Sharira, right? We
Mm.
store samskaras, we store Papa Punya,
Mm.
as well as the worldview,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And the knowledge of the worldview is different
Mm.
from other knowledge. So only that,
Yes.
which is why that is separately stored in the
Yes.
Karna Shariram, that when you attain jnanam,
Mm.
even if the person goes through any other variations of coma or whatever, it comes back, that is still
Mm.
stored.
Yes.
That part is still stored.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Um, and one other question is the
Mm.
Jiva Tattva Jnanam that you talked about is always
Mm.
Purva Bhaga, in some sense of it is the triangular format in which it's
Yes.
Ishvara, Jiva, and
Jagat. Yeah. Mm.
and a related question, when you talked
Mm.
about Chidabhasa as a reflection of on the Karana Shariram, right?
Mm.
Ishvara equivalent is on the macro level.
So Ishvara, the same things at every level, the cosmic level, the samashti, at the macro level would be Ishvara. We'll come to that. Like, so it's
It's a
the same.
Chidabhasa only, right? The Chidabhasa at macro level is Ishvara.
Again, like we'll come to that because there are terminologies, there are multiple terminologies, right? So the sum total of all Karna Shariras itself is Ishvara,
But it has
and
to be reflected also, right? When you say Karana,
and
it
and
reflects.
the reflected one is also Ishvara. Basically, that is the Ishvara as the person, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Gokul Uma here.
Mm. Mm.
My question is, so when the body dies, you
Mhm.
carry the mind, but do you carry the intellect part of it where you can discriminate, or the 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 intellect part comes only after you get another body?
See, body is needed for manifestation. Okay. Now, even without the body, Vedanta says like you the uh, the Sukshma Sharira is also carried from one body to the other body. That is what Vedanta says. That is how we have all these child prodigies and geniuses and all, right? Uh, so who seem to be carrying some part of what they have learned in the even of secular knowledge, what they have learned from the previous births. Now, that is what Vedanta says. That is there in the Sukshma Sharira. And as Savitri ji said, Karana Sharira has the wisdom, the jnana about who am I, who is Ishvara, what is this world. So that is a much more deeper knowledge about myself, right? The world view. So that is at the Karna Sharira level.
So if I'm carrying the intellect part of it, then
Mhm.
if I mean, I can take anybody, right? As a human, in the human birth, I'm having a lot more discrimination
Mhm.
than if I'm born as any other animal or plant. So in
Yes.
that case, the 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 body that I get, the
Mhm.
brain and all that, that is able to discriminate me. So when I'm traveling, or
Mhm.
when I go from one body to the discriminative faculty
Mhm.
is really, do I carry, or it just becomes activated based on the body?
Huh. No, you carry it because we have the story of Jadabharata, right?
Hmm.
So Jadabharata, he was able to remember his past life even in the body of a deer.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So it is possible, but just that because the body does not have the medium for manifesting, it might not get manifested.
No, but if a dog bites somebody, they say,
Mm.
"Hey, it is only only in the human birth do I get this papa and punya."
Hmm.
So if I'm having discrimination in the other body, then
Mm.
I should get papa and punya also in that body.
Yeah, we don't know actually. These are all gray areas. Like, see, if you take the life of Ramana Maharishi, right? Like, he used to talk and communicate with monkeys, squirrels, cows, and dogs, and they used to understand. And if you read the life history of the cow Lakshmi, right? Like, that cow perfectly knew about who is Ramana, and it knew what it was doing. It used to come to the hall, sit and meditate, and go. Like, so that way, even though the body is that of a cow, right? And the sadhana it did in the cow body itself is much subtler and much higher than what any human being can do. So we can generalize, but there are always exceptions and there are always gray areas. You should read the life of the like cow Lakshmi,
Okay. Thanks.
which is a disciple of Ramana Maharshi.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
So one just another question. That is
Mm.
when at the time of pralayam, right?
Mm.
And after that, the stula, sorry, the sukshma,
Mm.
that is also is gone, right? Then is
Huh.
everything
So
only
at the
after
time of Mahapralayam, because there are two
pralayam.
Pralayam.
Yes,
One
yes.
is the normal Pralayam is within the life
Correct.
of one Brahmaji. Mahapralayam is when a Brahmaji also gets replaced. At that time, the Sukshma Sharira also gets recycled.
Where the whatever is a residue of the other worldly knowledge does not transfer. Is that a fair
Huh,
thing?
huh, huh,
That,
huh.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas the other one that could potentially also transfer from birth to birth, but
Yes,
after
that will go. Hmm.
that doesn't. Whereas the Karana Shariram, that worldview,
Hmm.
that is always there, which is why
Yeah.
Ishvara knows that he is Brahman, because that is always told.
Huh, huh. And even all the jivas, whatever papa punya that each jiva has done, that also is never gets destroyed.
Yes,
Hmm.
that also is never destroyed. But
Yeah.
the samskaras do get destroyed.
No, no, samskaras also all carried.
Papa
Only
Punya
the
are there. Oh, samskaras are also there. Only
yes,
the
yes,
other
yes.
worldly knowledge gets destroyed.
Worldly knowledge, your knowledge of
But
physics,
only
chemistry,
the
mathematics will get
Sukshma
destroyed.
Sharira.
Hmm.
Only Sukshma Sharira. Sorry, yeah, Sukshma Sharira,
Hmm.
not the Papa. Okay, thank you.
Hmm. Good, good. Any other questions? Okay, so this much if you have understood clearly, then it will be very easy to go through the rest. Okay. Okay, so let us continue from where we left. Okay, so now let us see how the Gita goes. We'll start with the first chapter. First chapter is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga, the depression of Arjuna. And so it basically gives a good context, and it gives us helps us to relate to the problems which we also have. And what we need to remember is that Arjuna is a soldier and his duty is to fight. He's a king, he's a commando in the army. And so first chapter starts with, Duryodhana being afraid of the war. He's talking to Drona and others, saying like, uh, we are weak, they are strong, and all that. And then Arjuna is very confident of winning the war. He's sure. And the 21st sloka, he even shows a bit of arrogance also. And he asks Krishna to put the chariot in so that he can see that who are all there in the who have come to fight. So, Senayor Ubayor Madhye, Krishna puts the chariot in front of Bhishma and Drona. Krishna knows that Arjuna has a weakness. He has got an attachment to Bhishma and Drona. That is why he puts there. If he had put the chariot in front of Duryodhana or Dusashana, then Gita would not have come at that time. But later, when during the war, Arjuna would have his weakness would have got exposed, and there would have been a problem. So Krishna, right in the front, right in the beginning only, he wants to solve the problem of Arjuna's attachment. So he puts the chariot in front of Bhishma and Drona. And when he does that, before this, when it in the previous shlokas, Arjuna says, okay, these are all criminals, I want to kill them and all that. But then moment he puts it in front of Bhishma, sees Bhishma and Drona, then Arjuna sees the entire army of Kauravas as teachers, grandfather, cousins, uncles, nephews, and all. So he says like, what is this that we are doing? How can I kill all of them? Why should I kill? Right? So the raga is what starts overpowering him. And from raga comes shoka. He runs into a depression, right? Chidanti mamagatrani, like mouth dries up, hands and legs shiver, the hair stands on its end, his Gandiva slips, his skin burns, head reels, basically like all signs of depression, right? Severe depression and panic attack, what we call, right? Happens. And he says, I don't want kingdom, I don't want pleasure, I just want to get killed in their hands. That is also fine. Like he gets into deep depression. And because of that shoka, then it also manifests as moha. Moha is dharma, adharma, moha, right? Confusion between what is right and what is wrong. So Arjuna says we will get sin by killing these criminals. He says they are criminals, but then he says like, and he basically he identifies them as atatayis. Atatayis are people who have done crimes which deserve capital punishment, like poisoning someone's food, trying to kill an unarmed person, and the like the disturbing the modesty of a woman. All these things the Kauravas have done, and according to the law, each of these deserve capital punishment. Now, if a citizen does that, it is a duty of the king to give capital punishment. But if the king himself does that, then it is a duty of the other kings to establish dharma. And after calling them as atatayis, still Arjuna is confused and says, I will get sin by killing them, which is absolutely, actually Arjuna being a king, he being a Kshatriya, he will get great punya by executing the justice, right, as per the law. So he's totally confused between what is right and what is wrong. He says we should not kill relatives, families will get destroyed, society will get confused, all kinds of things he says. And he says we will go to hell. And he says, finally, he says, let them kill me. Right. So this is the complete confusion between what is right and what is wrong. Right. And Arjuna, like he's a dharmic person. He was leading a very dharmic life. He has been leading a dharmic life. Just that because of this raga and shoka, he gets into this moha. So this is raga, shoka, moha. This is what is mainly highlighted in the first chapter. And then second chapter, first 10 shlokas is Arjuna Sharanagati. Right. The second chapter is named as Sankhya Yoga. So here Sankhya basically means knowledge. And so at that time of the Gita, there were two main philosophies, Sankhya and Vedanta, right? And so basically the entire Gita we can see is reconciliation between Sankhya and Vedanta. That is one way of looking at Gita, right? So so here basically, like in the first three shlokas, Krishna scolds Arjuna, like, what is this? Why are you like this? Basically a shock treatment, right? To shake him out of the delusion, to shake him out of that depression. Krishna gives a shock treatment, right? Where he scolds Arjuna and Arjuna wakes up, and then he realizes that, oh, like, I think this is not what I'm supposed to do, right? This is basically to wake up Arjuna. And then Arjuna surrenders to Krishna. Arjuna finds that, okay, something is wrong in my logic. I'm under moha. He identifies that he needs help and he asks Krishna to help. Karpanya dosho pahata swabhavaha prichamitvam dharma sammoda chetaha. He says, yet shreyas, whatever is good for me, please tell me, right? Shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam, right? He says, I am your disciple. I surrender to you. Please tell me what I should do. So that prayer of Arjuna is what converts Parthasarathi into Jagat Guru, right? And Krishna teaches the Gita. The next few shlokas is Sankhya Yoga, which basically gives gives a summary of the Gita, right? Na anushochanti panditaha. That is the essence of the entire Gita, right? And the Gita starts with this. The Gita teaching starts here. Now the entire Gita starts with Dharmakshetre, Kurukshetre, right? And where Dhritarashtra asks Sanjaya, right, what is happening? And the answer to that is the last shloka of the Gita, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha. That is the entire Gita. Whereas the Gita teaching starts with this shloka, where he says, Na anushochanti panditaha. And the Gita teaching ends with the 18th chapter, 66th shloka, where he says, Sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami masuchaha. Don't grieve, don't be sad, don't worry. Here also he says, wise people don't worry, right? So this is kind of in between the Gita, like the teaching is there. So now, and elaboration of that is rest of it. So what is this knowledge? Who are these wise people? What knowledge do they have? So here the knowledge is given in two levels. One is as the Jivatma, we as Jivatma, that is covered in 12, 13, 14, 15, right? And as we as Atma, that is given in 18 to 24. So now, if we don't clearly understand the separation between the 12 to 15 and the 16 to 24, it is very confusing. Because in 12 to 15, he talks about, like, Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavanam jara, right? That vasamshi jirnani yata vihaya. So basically he says, like, we are all spiritual entities. and basically as the Jivatma, and we go from body to body. The Jivatma goes from body to body. The Jivatma does not die. Jivatma is eternal, and all the experiences in life are transient, and a calm man is not disturbed by these dualities, right? Dhiraha, the Tatra Dhiraha, what is that? Hmm. So he is not disturbed by these. So this is what he says. So from the point of view of Jivatma, then he also gives from the point of view of Atman, right? Nasate. So basically, like that, the Sat is one that pervades everything, right? And it never goes out of existence. And then the Chit, which is indwelling, is changeless and actionless. So this is covered. This is the Atma level. So both Jivatma level, there are some shlokas, and Atma level, there are some shlokas. And our identity as an individual, we are Jivatmas, and essentially we are pure consciousness. Now, this knowledge is what is called as Sankhya Yoga. This is what is the Jnana. The ultimate truth is given here. Now, after giving the essential truth, right, in 13 shlokas from 12th to 24th, then Krishna gives other different points of view why you should not, why you need not mourn, right? Na sochitum arhasi, right? That so na sochitum arhasi, he keeps telling from different points of view. Now, if each person is Atma, the pure consciousness, then you don't need to worry. So that is told in two shlokas. And then, okay, suppose if you say each one is a Jivatma, which goes from body to body, then also you don't need to worry, right? Which is told. Then, suppose even if you consider that, okay, no Atma, no Jivatma, I don't believe in all that, only bodies are there, right? Then also you don't need to worry. That also is told. And then from the Prakriti point of view also, what is manifest becomes unmanifest, what is unmanifest becomes manifest as the cycle of Pralaya and Kalpa keep happening. So what is there to worry? So that is from the Prakriti point of view. So from different points of view, Krishna says, Na sochitum arhasi. You need not mourn, right? Need not worry. So then he says, you should fight. Now, and why you should do your duty, right? That again he explains from different points of view. From point of view of dharma, he says by fighting this war, you will get, you are, it is your duty to fight. You are a kshatriya, you have to fight. It is your dharma. And then he talks about from the name point of view. If you don't fight, people will say you are a coward, right? People will say you have ran away from the battlefield. Your name will get spoiled. And then he also points out from the point of view of karma, that he says, okay, if you win, you will enjoy the world. If you die, you will enjoy Swarga. So in either way, you will enjoy, fight. And then he also says, if you fight with detachment, you will not get any sin. Do it, just fight because it is your duty to fight. So all these are covered, right? So from the point of view of Sankhya Yoga, from the point of view of knowledge, he gives the knowledge and then connects that knowledge to the current situation, how that knowledge is applied to the current situation, how Arjuna need not worry, and how Arjuna should do his duty. So both the attitude and behavior he is connecting to the knowledge, right? So this is what is covered in the Sankhya Yoga section. And after that, then Krishna goes to Karma Yoga, and basically he says that the goal of karma, nishkama karma, is to break free from the bondage of karma, and doing action with desire and going to heaven will not will not free you from bondage. It is only nishkama karma which will. And you have the freedom to work. So this is the, the popular sloka, right? So you have the freedom to work, but no control over results. And desire creates bondage, and you act without desire, that will free you from bondage. And then he, like a lot of places in the Gita, the entire path is summarized. So here again, he summarizes here by getting equanimity, renunciation will arise. By doing karma yoga, you will get equanimity. By equanimity, you will get vairagya, renunciation will come. And with that vairagya, when a person hears about the self and meditates upon it, then self-realization will come. So the whole path is, this is one of the places where it is described. So basically, like karma yoga is presented as one which will free from the bondage of karma, right? And it's a preparation for the jnana, right? And then Arjuna asks the question, okay, like you are talking about self-realization, like how does a person of self-realization, how does he behave? And Krishna gives the description. So first he describes the qualities of the Siddha Prajna, right? He's desireless, he's satisfied, not shaken, not hankering, free from affection, fear, and anger, unattached, right? Free from elation, depression, has control over the senses. He doesn't long for any sense enjoyments, and he sits and meditates with me as the goal. So these qualities he gives, and then he talks about like the downward spiral and upward spiral, right? So when you think of the sense objects, that will lead to attachment, that will lead to longing, that will lead to anger, that will lead to delusion, that will lead to loss of memory, and that will lead to loss of discrimination and destruction. Instead of doing that, you go for the upward spiral. You have self control. Self control will give restraint, that will free you from attraction and aversion, that will give you tranquility, that will give destruction of sorrow, that will give steadiness of intellect. With that, you can get knowledge, with that, you can meditate, and then you can get peace and happiness. So, both the downward spiral and upward spiral are given in the next few shlokas. And after that, then he again does a recap. So he says everything starts with restraining the senses and not letting the mind wander with the senses, right? Desires should not disturb the mind. That is the way to the peace. And without desires and self-centeredness, possessiveness, established in peace, knowing Brahman, free from delusion, that person attains oneness with Brahman. Right? Vihaya kaman yas sarvan pumamsharati nispriha nirmamo nirahankaraha sa shanti madhigacchati. Right? So he thus basically like the entire message of the Gita is covered here, right? Like in the Sankhya, the second chapter only, right? We see that the complete message is there, right? By knowledge, right? The core knowledge is there, and how to prepare for the knowledge by karma yoga, and then after, with that, how to, and meditation is also highlighted in multiple places, saying with this knowledge you have to meditate upon the knowledge, and then you will get self realization and you will get freedom, right? So this is the kind of entire summary of the entire shatka. The entire first 6 chapters summary is already presented in the second chapter, right? And then it proceeds further. Now third chapter starts with Arjuna asking a question. So Arjuna is confused. So Arjuna is asking which is better, knowledge or action, right? Now Krishna gives a very simple, straightforward answer. Detached action is the way to attain freedom from attachment. And without freedom from attachment, meditation is not possible. So Karma Yoga followed by Dhyana Yoga. So, and which will give the Jnanam. So basically, like it is not, there is not a choice between knowledge and action. First, action will give you the preparation needed for knowledge, right? So karma yogena karma karma yogena jnana yogyata prapti, then jnana yogena jnanam. That is what you get. So by karma yoga, you will get the yogyata for jnana yoga, and by jnana yoga, you will get jnanam. And meditation, and we often karma yoga is clubbed with meditation. So you can say karma yoga, dhyana yoga, jnana yoga. So that is the sequence that is prescribed here. And so when you say karma yoga, he says why duty should not be ignored. You have taken a lot, so you have to give back what you have taken, otherwise you'll incur sin. The cycle of karma should be honored, right? And so this is given using the example of the whatever the society at that time was familiar with, like yajnas, yagas, and it was also a pastoral society, right? Like you have forests, you have dependent upon rain, crops, agriculture. Like he kind of uses all those examples, and then he says how the cycle of karma should be honored and all that. Okay. And so basically, like much of the language there is kind of archaic. The example given is not in modern societies. We might not be able to relate to those some of the examples given here, but then the idea is that there is a cycle of karma, and we have to follow the cycle because we have already taken a lot. We have to give back, otherwise we will incur sin, right? And then he says the one who is devoted to the self, contented with the self, delights in the self alone, has no duty. So there is one person who doesn't have duty, is one who is established in the self, and he has nothing to do or achieve or avoid. He is completely satisfied, and and such a person doesn't have any duty. All the others have to do their duties without attachment, like how King Janaka did. And so then he gives the why even a wise person should do his action, right? Should do his duty, because everyone follows popular people. So as a guidance and demonstration, even the wise people should work, even though there is nothing for them to achieve. And here Krishna gives his own example. He says, see, even I have now got nothing to achieve in this universe, but then I work because I want to set an example to others, he says. And then there are two shlokas which are kind of out of place. Here he says, like, everything is done by Prakriti and everything is a transaction between the gunas, which is basically the highest knowledge. But then he buffers it in both the 26th and the 29th shloka. He buffers it, saying, this is something you should not tell to people who are not ready for this understanding. You should not disturb their mind, right? So basically he says, like, you should urge people to action. And then the entire summary is given, right? Renouncing all actions in me with spiritual attitude. So free from desire and possessiveness, do your duty without anxiety. So the 30th shloka of the 3rd chapter is considered as by Paramarthanji as a summary of Karma Yoga, right? And then the 31 to 35 is an explanation of the 30th shloka. It is just expanded there. And then problem of desire and its solution is covered, right? Like Arjuna asks the question, what urges people to make mistakes? And Krishna gives the answer, desire and its derivatives like anger cloud the knowledge, and because of that people make mistakes, right? Sorry. And how to do that, like how to become free from desires? Krishna takes the Panchakosha Viveka, and he says desire dwells in the lower 4 koshas. So identify yourself with the Jivatma and control the lower koshas. That is the way to become free from desire. Now, so basically, like the Stula Sharira and Sukshma, actually the Sukshma Sharira is the one which is the seat of desires. So when you say 4 lower koshas, but particularly the 3, the Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, that is the seat of desires, which is basically the Sukshma Sharira. So desires are dwelling in the Sukshma Sharira, and we should identify with the Jivatma and control and conquer the lower tendencies of the Sukshma Sharira. So that is what he says. And this is what is covered in the third chapter, right? So the third chapter basically says that you have to do action, because that is what will give you the preparation. The detachment is needed in spiritual progress, and you will get detachment only by doing action, nishkama karma, right? So that is what is covered here, mainly as a response to Arjuna's question. Okay. Then the next chapter, Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. So where Krishna says that this knowledge, whatever I'm telling you, is not new. Like I told to Surya, Vivaswan told to Manu, and Manu told to Ishwaku. He gives, and then he says it just got lost in time. And what I'm telling you is the same old ancient knowledge I'm telling you again. And then Arjuna interrupts. He asks a question. He says, like, how come you are telling that I thought you are born just a few years before me, like we are of same age almost. How come you are saying you taught this to Vivaswan, the Surya? And Krishna says, I am the Lord. Both of us have gone through innumerable births. I know them all. You don't know them. And whenever there is a requirement in this world, I come with full knowledge to establish dharma. So, and then he says, the knowledge of avatara gives freedom from attachment. This is, he introduces what is going to come later. He kind of tells here because Arjuna, as an answer to Arjuna's question. So, the knowledge of the avatara gives freedom from attachment, fear, and anger. It gives absorption in me and surrender to me. And from that, you will get knowledge of the self and you will attain me. And this is also not a new path. Several people in the past have taken this path, right? And he says, like, I fulfill the all pursuits of people, and worldly people seek the world, and slowly they develop to higher pursuits and have created the world and societal order for this purpose. Right? Chatur Varnyam Maya Shrishtam Gunakarma Vibhaga Yoga, those come here, right? So now these are more as a diversion from the flow. They are answering Arjuna's question, because Arjuna asked the question like, originally Krishna did not intend to cover these, right? So the first three shlokas is in the general flow, and after that from 4 to 15, right, like 12 shlokas are answer to Arjuna's question and a small diversion which Krishna takes, and then he comes back to the original flow from the 16th shloka onwards, right? So basically he says, like, like the wisdom of seeing action in inaction and vice versa. So now, so basically whatever the flow which was there in the previous chapter in Karma Yoga, he had started describing, right? And he continues that flow here from the 16th shloka onwards, like it continues. So he says, when the doership is renounced, action does not bind. When doership is not renounced, action bind, even if physically sitting idle, right? Because the mind keeps desiring, imagining, and all that, right? So basically, like, you need to understand the difference between Karma Yoga and Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Karma Yoga is where you identify with yourself with the Jivatma and you renounce the fruits of action, right? And Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga is where you identify with the pure consciousness and you renounce the doership also, right? This is the next level. So first level, you renounce the fruits of action, but you hold the doership of action, because the Jivatma is the doer. So So you identify with the Jivatma as the doer, and you offer the fruits of action to nature. You renounce the fruits of action. Whereas in Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, you identify as pure consciousness and say, I am not the doer, Prakriti is the one who does everything. Right? So that is the difference. Right? So the actually in the third chapter itself, the 27 and 28th shlokas, that is what is Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Right? Though it comes here as a small diversion. So Krishna buffers it, saying that, okay, this doesn't belong here, but that is the ultimate one. So Karma Yoga is identifying with the Jivatma, taking the doership and doing all the duties as an offering, right? Doing all the duties without having desire for the results, because we have already taken so much, right, to purify. Now, Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga is where you renounce the doership also. By renouncing the doership, he says the action doesn't bind, right? So renouncing doership is called Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, right? By knowing that I am pure consciousness, right? So he says, like, the person who has renounced doership, right? So here he describes like that a person who has renounced the doership of action, such people, action does not bind, right? And he doesn't cling to the results. And without clinging to results, without desire, like, so he gives here, this part gives the characteristics of a person who has, he's basically a jnani. Again, this is a jnani's characteristics, because he doesn't hold on to the doership. So how is the person who doesn't hold on to doership, what happens to him, right? So he says, like, he is ever satisfied with whatever comes, body and mind are under control, right? He's not affected by dualities, depends on nothing, no possessiveness, freedom from envy, even mindedness, right? Much like whatever, that's the Prajna Lakshana, whatever we saw, similar description, right? But this is as a description of a jnani who has renounced the doership, right? And he then he gives this is a famous shloka, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi, right? That also comes here. A person, he basically sees Brahman alone everywhere, right? He sees everything as Brahman. And here he gives an example of doing a homa, right? Because in those days homas were very popular, everyone was doing Agnihotra and such things, so people can relate to such an example, right? So he gives that in takes the example of a homa and then says how everything is Brahman. The process of giving oblation is Brahman, the ghee which is offered is Brahman, the fire into which it is offered is Brahman, and the person who is offering is also Brahman, right? So this way everything is Brahman only. There is nothing other than Brahman in this entire universe. And by being absorbed in Brahman, he reaches Brahman alone, right? So this is the characteristics of a jnani, right? Of the wise person. And the idea is the difference between a jnani and a karma yogi is karma yogi holds on to doership. He identifies himself as the jivatma and he does the actions for purification of the mind. Whereas a jnani, he has gone to the next step. He has given up the doership. He identifies with the pure consciousness. He identifies himself with the atma. So a yogi identifies himself with jivatma, whereas a jnani identifies himself with the pure atma. That is the difference, right? And the glory and means of the knowledge are next covered. Various types of sacrifices are listed, right? Offering to the devas, offering the jivatma into the paramatma, right? Jivatma into the atma. It basically means switching from the jivatma mode, from identifying yourself as jivatma. If you give up that identity and identify yourself as pure consciousness, he says that is basically offering the jivatma into the atma. and then senses into austerity, like following any austerities, or even engaging the sense with the sense objects, that is also an offering. So basically everything is yajna. That is what here he says, right? Everything that we do, where we voluntary actions, involuntary actions, wealth, austerities, right? So practice of Ashtanga yoga, study of scriptures, right? And developing the wisdom and doing pranayama, regulation of breath, regulation of food, everything is, these are all various kinds of yajna only. They're all various, basically like every action that we do is a yajna. That is what is comes here. And those who offer yajna gain in this world, sorry, one who offer us yajna, like one who do actions, they are the people who gain in this world and beyond. And that is what the Vedas talk about. Vedas basically talk about that if you do a law of karma is the essence of Vedas here, right? Whatever action you do, you will get the appropriate results. So these are all, this is what the Veda says. And then he says, greater than all these sacrifices is knowledge. And knowledge is the ultimate purpose of all action. Sarva karma khilam partha jnane parisamapyate. Right? That is what it says. So the whatever action you do, ultimately what you gain is knowledge, experience, wisdom. So that is the ultimate purpose of all action. And then here comes the famous shloka, tadvidhi pratipatena pariprashnena sevaya, right? So you gain the knowledge of the self by prostrating to a guru, questioning him and serving him. So this covers Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, right? So basically you approach a guru and you bow down to him and you listen to him, and that is Shravana, right? Tadvidhi pratipatena. Then pariprashnena, that is Manana, like you question him, ask all your doubts, everything, and completely clear all your doubts. That is Manana, pariprashnena. Then Sevaya, that is Nididhyasana. So after that, you see how the Guru has uh, manifested or implemented this knowledge in everyday life by serving him, by living with him, and you also start manifesting the knowledge in your action and behavior and attitude. So that is Nididhyasana. So Shravana Manana Nididhyasana is covered in that stotra, that shloka, right? And then the benefit of knowledge, right? So by knowledge, you will see all beings in yourself and in me. So in the Pratama Shatkam, very rarely Krishna talks about himself as the Supreme Lord, right? So once we saw that in the beginning of the fourth shloka, he talks about it, and here also for us, there is one shloka like here also he talks about it, but very very rarely. So he says like most of the first 6 chapters is about, doesn't involve Ishvara at all, right? So by knowledge you will see all beings in yourself and in me, like, so he brings there. And by knowledge all sin will get burnt, even the greatest sinner will be free from all sin by this knowledge of identifying the self with pure consciousness. That is the knowledge, right, we are talking about here. And having this knowledge as the goal, controlling the senses with faith in the words of the Guru and scriptures, the person attains knowledge and supreme peace. He sees the self within himself, and without faith, nothing is attained, right? So, Shraddhavan labate jnanam, right? So, jnana is got by Shraddha, the faith in the words of the Guru and the scriptures. So, then, like becoming free from karma by karma yoga and free from doubts by jnana yoga, established in the self, nothing binds him. So, this way, the chapter ends with a full summary of how the second step fulfills the first step. So, karma yoga and then jnana karma sannyasa yoga. So, this way, like, the 2 steps are covered. And going further, like he still now again, Arjuna asks a question. So with this, again, the elaboration of the teaching is again one more round is over. So first round was there in the second chapter, right? Second chapter, Krishna gave the entire teaching, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. That is, there it was called as Sankhya Yoga, right? Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga were covered, and the entire teaching, and also Siddha Prajna Lakshana also was given. So the entire teaching was given in the second chapter. Then Arjuna asked a question in the beginning of third chapter, and Krishna started answering Arjuna's question. That covers both the third and fourth chapters, where Krishna again elaborates Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga in two chapters now, right? Third chapter Karma Yoga and fourth chapter Jnana Yoga. And in between, there was a distraction because Arjuna asked a question and Krishna took a detour to answer that question. So the second round of the entire Gita teaching gets over in the fourth chapter. Now, again, fifth chapter starts. Again, Arjuna asks a question. He says, like, you are talking about Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, which is better? Again, he says, right? And again, Krishna starts the third exposition, third round of exposition of the Gita again in answer to Arjuna's question, right? So Arjuna asks, like, these two lifestyles, like Sankhya and Yoga, like, so Krishna says both are lead to the same goal, and without doing action as Karma Yoga, it is difficult to renounce attachment to action and its fruits. When a person purified by Karma Yoga sits in meditation, he attains the knowledge of Brahman very easily, right? So this kind of answers Arjuna's question, right? It is not either or, right? You cannot say, do I need to follow yoga or Sankhya? That's what Arjuna asked. So Krishna says, like, no, like Karma Yoga is will basically prepare you for meditation and knowledge. So he highlights that, and then again Krishna elaborates again, right, with mind. And this fifth chapter, seventh shloka is a full summary of the entire Gita. Again, there are several such shlokas where the entire Gita is summarized, the Gita path. This is one of them, right? So with the mind purified by Karma Yoga, the mind and senses subdued by meditation, seeing oneself in the self of all beings by knowledge, the person does not get tainted even by engaging in action. Yoga yukto vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriya sarva bhutatma kurvannapina lipyate. Right? So he summarizes the entire thing, and then he takes a detour again, like, though the jnani eats, sleeps, speaks, he feels he does nothing at all, right? So this is though in general this section talks about Karma Yoga, but then there is two shlokas where he gives the characteristics of Jnana Yoga again, of Jnani again, and then he talks about a Karma Yogi. The Karma Yogi does actions without attachment, offering them to Brahman. He is also not touched by evil. For the purification of the Jivatma, he works with the body, mind, and intellect, and one who is detached attains peace. The non-yogi is bound, right? So basically, the Karma Yoga is for purification of the Jiva. When you say Jivatma, you have to remember Punya, Samskara, Jnana, right? So when you say purification, in general, it is purification of the Samskara, right? To develop good Samskaras and good Punya, which prepares to develop the right knowledge, right? And that is done by the using the body, mind, and intellect. So Kayena Vachasa, Kaya, Manas, and Buddhi. That's what he uses here, right? So that is the Karma Yoga and its phalam. And again, he goes to Jnana, describes the Jnana Karma Sannyasa again here, right? So here the indweller is a pure Atman, right? So identifying the identified with the pure Atman, pure consciousness, he rests happily in the body, acting, without causing to act. The Lord does not do, and even the Lord does not do any actions. It is a Prakriti which does everything. The omnipresent does not consider good or bad actions. It is a ignorance that covers knowledge and deludes beings, by whose ignorance, but whose ignorance is destroyed, knows the Supreme. So basically, like he talks about how the jnani does not, he's just a pure witness to everything and does not identify with good or bad actions, and so is free from papa and punya also. So that is described here. And knowing Brahman, identifying with it, being established in it, having found refuge in it, having all karma destroyed, he attains the abode of no return, right? And that is moksha. And he says the jnani sees everything equally. His mind is at peace, does not see defects, right? And his intellect is steady, without delusion, without elation, grief, detached with external objects, full of joy within, right? So basically, like again, the description of what the jnani is given here, right? And then vairagyam is described, right? And why the sense objects, we should not engage, the jnani does not engage in sense enjoyments, because that is cause of misery only, right? And videha mukti is described, right? One who finds happiness, relaxation, and light within becomes Brahman, attains freedom, and with the impurities removed, senses and mind under control, all doubts dispelled, engage in the welfare of all beings, such a rishi attains freedom. See, everywhere you can find the same sequence, like that is the Gita template, right? By karma yoga, remove the impurities. By meditation, you control the sense and the mind and the senses. And then by jnana yoga, you attain knowledge and remove all doubts. And after that, right, you live as a jivan mukta, right? So this, and after, when the body dies, you become videha mukti, right? So this template is what you will see everywhere in the Gita. So once you have understood that template, you can find that everything will fall into place, right? So that is what is important. And then again, like instructions on meditation is introduced here, right, in the 5th chapter, and which is elaborated in the 6th chapter, right? And so basically, like, and this again is a very beautiful shloka, the 5th chapter, 29th shloka. Bhoktaram yagnitapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam nyatva mam shantim richati. Right? Like basically this is again, like one of the rare shlokas in the Pratama Shatka, which talks about Ishvara, right? So he kind of puts it there. Ishvara is omniscient, omnipotent, compassionate, and by knowing Ishvara, you can know peace, right? So, and then Dhyana Yoga, like the entire 6th chapter, we already covered Dhyana Yoga. We have covered in quite detail in one of the previous lectures. So we can basically, like, initially it talks about Bahiranga Sadhanani, right? The external preparations for meditation, right? And what is the preparation for meditation? Karma Yoga is a preparation for meditation. The 6th chapter starts with Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karoti sa sannyasi cha yogi cha, right? Like, so says, like, doing a duty without eye on the fruits, that is the preparation for meditation, right? So a person with worldly goals can never become a yogi. By doing detached action, a person becomes a yogi. So then after that, he can resort to inaction. So basically, like, Arurukshori Muneri Yogam Karma Karanam Uchyate, like, so it describes that. And then he says, by one should purify the jivatma by the right use of the body, mind, and intellect. Uddharet atmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet. So when you say uddharet, basically it means purification of the jivatma, right? When you say uddharet atmana atmanam, the word atma comes multiple times. So by using the body, mind, and intellect, we should purify our punya and samskara. We should develop good punya and samskara. That is what is called as Uddared, right? So once you understand the template of Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karna Sharira, right, then everything will become very, very easy to understand. You can correlate. And then he says, like, a person, like, so he talks about from point of view of, like, the situations, objects, and people. Like a person who has got mastery over the senses and mind, he sees equality in all people, objects, and situations. And then he also gives the that we should avoid extremities in eating, sleeping, working, and all that, right? So these are the preparations for a meditation. Basically, a meditation conducive lifestyle is needed. After that, from 10 to 15, he gives the detailed the instructions for meditation. We have already seen this in the previous talk we had on Dhyana Yoga, where I had elaborated exactly these 6 shlokas, right? Where different types of solitude is talked about, and then how to sit in a clean place, right? And then with concentration, first you do some chanting so that your mind is purified and concentrated. Then after that, hold the head and neck and body steady and look, and then you start meditating. So basically, here again, the 10th shloka is the summary, and the 11 to 15 is an expansion of the 10th shloka only. Right? Usually, lot of places in the Gita, that would be the template. Every set of shlokas, there will be one shloka which is a summary and then explanation. Summary, explanation. That is how it goes. Right? And then dhyana swarupam and dhyana phalam are covered. Right? Like, and then, so these are also like, basically he talks about what is meditation, what will happen, and then your mind will run away, you bring it back, don't worry. And also like what all is attained by meditation, right? So you'll attain tranquility, bliss, passion subdued, identification with Brahman, and freedom from all karmas. So basically, like, the benefit of attaining Brahman, right? The meditation is described. And then, so up to this, up to the 32nd shloka, again, the next round of Gita description is covered, right? Like, so what he started again in the chapter. So fifth and sixth chapter, fifth chapter gives one outline, and sixth chapter talks about meditation as the culmination of the sadhana. And with this, one more round of the Gita teaching is over. And then Arjuna asks a question. He says, mind is difficult to control. Krishna says, yes, but by abhyasa and vairagya, you can control. So basically, like, abhyasa is practice of meditation. Vairagya is basically karma yoga, a meditation conducive lifestyle, right? So by if you have done karma yoga properly, then you will be able to control the mind. That's what Krishna answers. Like, if you do karma yoga, if you have done karma yoga properly, then your meditation will be easy. And then Arjuna asks, okay, what will happen if a person dies in the middle of the spiritual journey? Krishna says, nothing will happen. You will continue in the next life from where you left. So no problem. Nothing is lost. Na kalyana kritik kaschit durgatim tata gachati. Right? So he says, nothing will be lost. And you will be born in Sushinam Srimatam Gehe. Right? In the house of pure and prosperous house, you will be born. Or you will be born in a house of jnanis, which is still rare. And you will continue from where you left with the same vigor. And like this, birth after birth, you go and he will attain perfection. No problem, right? So that is there. And then there is a praise of the yogi is given. Yogi is better than people who do austerities, the person on the spiritual path. So basically, a person who is on the spiritual path, who is following the spiritual life, he is better than a person who just does some austerities who are all great scholars, or a people who just do rituals, puja, homa, and all that. He says a yogi is better than all those people, right? And so the of all the yogis, the one who meditates upon me, who is devoted to me with faith, are most steadfast. So now this is the key to the Madhyama Shatka. So this is where, so far he has been talking mainly without involving Ishvara at all. And then in the last shloka of the 6th chapter, he gives the key for the second set of six chapters. This is the key to the second set, 6 chapters, where he says, meditating upon me, devoted to me, right? So that will be got elaborated in the next set of 6 chapters. So this is the Prathama Shatkam, right? Just the bird's eye overview of the first 6 chapters, right? So basically, like, this is these two, if you remember, like the idea of the Jivatma, the self, the Jiva Tattva, right? What is the template? And this, the Krama, the Sadhana Krama, right? This is what is elaborated in the first 6 chapters. I hope that gave you a good idea. We are already over time. So, any questions?
Gokulji, in the first, right, you say we start with Jnana Yoga as the starting point, no?
Because even to start Karma Yoga, you need to have the idea that there is something called Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira. I am the Karana Sharira. I need to develop Punya. I need to develop good samskara. That Jiva Tattva Jnana is needed even before Karma Yoga.
But typically we see the way we start or come in is always doing the right thing, the morals and everything. And much later in life is when we get introduced to this, right?
No, but then, like, if you ask a question, why? You might say, okay, speak the truth. But then be kind to people, right? Now, if you say why, you cannot answer the question why without having the idea of Jiva Tattva.
We say that you don't want anybody to hurt you or for you to live in harmony, because at least any of the jivas, nobody wants to be hurt. So we usually give that as a reason. That's how you will start as children and as you grow up.
But again, if you ask why to that, what will you answer?
It comes much later. It's very hard to grasp that earlier. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm only saying from a step to start, just like, see, being good, every person doesn't want to be hurt, because their individuality is so natural that you don't want to be hurt, and hence you don't want to hurt is a very easy way to start, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. Suppose if a person asks why to that idea, see, whatever you're saying is what Krishna says, Atmopam yena sarvatra samam pashyati yojana sukham va yadiva dukkam sayogi paramo matah, right? So keeping you as your reference, you do to others what you like others to do to you, right? Atmopam yena sarvatra samam pashyati yojana sukham va yadiva dukkam. But then, like, if you say, like, why should I follow it? You cannot have an answer. Right?
Yeah, it's just that it's very hard to grasp this concept of the Jiva Tattvam at the very early stage.
It is not very difficult. See, basically, all of us see that we have a body, and all of us see that, like, the body is different from the mind. We have a mind, right? And all of us see that, okay, fine, the mind is there, but my ideas keep changing. But then, like, I have a character, like my anger, my jealousy, like my patience, my, like, so those are there. So basically, it is very easy. The the 3 bodies, like, right, or the Panchakosha, both are basically like Panchakosha is much more, slightly more next level of detail. That's all. So this idea of I, right, Jiva Tattva Jnana, is the essential template based on which the entire sadhana is there, right? So without grasp, so if you grasp these two ideas, right, the Panchakosha Viveka, or like whatever I showed you as the Jiva Tattva, and the Sadhana Krama, right? These two, if you grasp, then everything will just fall into place, right? And it's not possible to understand the whole thing without having this basics.
Understood.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So, any other questions? Okay, if there are no questions, we'll chant Om Shanti and we'll end. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.